What's up, YouTube? Still not editing my videos. Um, Today I kind of wanted to talk about The Acolyte. Um, for those who don't know, The Acolyte is a Star Wars show on Disney Plus. It was lampooned online. It was eviscerated. Everyone hated it. It was the worst thing ever. Um, I kind of want to defend it because I liked it, and I kind of am disappointed that the second season was canceled. Um, was it a perfect show? No, I don't think so. Um, I think it had its issues, but it's a Star Wars show, right? You're not really supposed to like take it that seriously. It's not supposed to have the best dialogue or the best characters, right? If you want that experience, you watch like The Godfather or The Irishman or something, right? If you if you just want Star Wars, I think it's a perfectly decent show. Um, so the actor who played May Osha um, said that the reason it failed, the show, was that there was a an effort by trolls online, and as lame as that sounds, in 2024, I honestly feel that that is exactly what happened. You know, prior to the first episode coming out, uh, you would hear online people being disgusted by the show, and I use disgusted like they're upset, very upsetty spaghetti about this show before they have even seen it, and whether or not that is like a an effort by trolls, when you go into a show already disgusted, already upset about its existence, of course you're not gonna like it, right? I went into the show because I heard that it was um, more of a dark side story, more of a ambiguity between like good and evil. Um, I would say moral, but like morals are kind of weird in Star Wars, I think. Um, that's what I wanted, and that's what I expected, and that's why I came out of that thinking, hey, that was a decent experience because it was exactly what I wanted. It was exactly what I expected. Um, I don't understand people comparing it to the prequel trilogies. People are saying that the prequel trilogies way better experience, way better Star Wars, way better acting, way better blah 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 blah. The prequel trilogies are absolute garbage, right? They just are. Um, the only reason those movies exist is because George Lucas willed them into existence. Like those movies would have never come out just naturally, right? Nothing any bad. So so when people compare them, and a lot of the complaints is like, oh well, it ruined the lore. A lot of the lore that they say that the Acolyte quote unquote ruined was actually introduced in the prequel trilogies. You know, stilted dialogue. Anakin turns to Obi-Wan and he says, "From my perspective, the Jedi are evil." Right? Remember that fucking cringy line? That is essentially what this show is. Is you take that concept that which has existed in the lore, right? Sith are evil, I guess, but the dark side itself isn't evil. It's just a force of nature. So you can have theoretically dark side people who are good people who are you know what I mean? And you can have light side people who do terrible things. And that's what happens in this show. they also talk about how, oh my god, the Jedi are so incompetent. And it's like, yes, that was also introduced in the prequel trilogies. The whole reason not only Anakin Skywalker fell from grace, but Count Dooku fell from grace is due to the complete incompetence of the Jedi Order, right? Like, think about it. All the Jedi had to do was take Anakin's mom with him. The whole show falls apart. The whole series falls apart if they would have just did that one thing. But they didn't. They didn't do a lot of things. So like the Jedi Council is incompetent. Yes, that is from the prequel trilogies. This predates the prequel trilogies. This is the High Republic. I think 100 or 200 years prior. So we're seeing the Jedi Order sort of turn into that incompetent state that allowed a Force user prodigy to become a Sith Lord. Completely makes sense, right? And I think people also were turned off by the mystery aspect. You know, because at its core, Acolyte is a murder mystery. You know, for at least half of the show. And so when details are purposely obscured by the direction of the story, I think people got pissed off. The people who were primed to be pissed off were pissed off, right? Which doesn't make any sense. If you, because I mean, we could take another Disney Plus show that was set up similar, right? WandaVision, love that show. Is it the best piece of media ever made ever? No, but it did things that were very unique, I think, very experimental, which I kind of thought Disney Plus was going to be, just like really experimental. Anyway, WandaVision purposefully obscured a lot of information to the audience, and the audience were just had to guess, speculate every single episode, and it was fine then. But with this show, it's not fine. And again, it's not because the show's bad. It's because people told themselves the show was bad prior to ever watching it. I really have a hard time like picking out like real deal breakers in that show. Like, of course there were some mistakes, like there was fire in space, and there's one guy using binoculars to see someone like 20 feet away. You know, those things are just fun. Like, I chuckled, right? Those weren't like, oh, ruined the whole experience to me. No, the other big criticism. You remember that guy from the original trilogy? He was a Jedi master, conehead looking guy. So they rewrote his age. That is what people were upset about. You know, I didn't even know his name. The vast majority of people on the planet do not care about that character, right? He wasn't even like the most memorable, weird-headed Jedi Master from the prequel trilogies. I'll let you speculate who that was, but no, Addy something Addy, like apparently everyone became an Addy fan when Acolyte came out, and they were just upset that they changed his age, which isn't canon to the Disney. You know what I mean? Like, what? I can't find like an articulated, like a reason that can be articulated that's like a deal breaker in this show. It's just nitpicks on nitpicks. And like, there are criticisms, right? You could say, I didn't like the show because I thought it was boring. I didn't like the show because I thought, whatever. you know. But when you talk about the show like so hyperbolically, it was the worst show ever. Worse than Velma, bro. Have you seen Velma? Because I saw 2 episodes of Velma and I turned it off. Right? Like when you speak so hyperbolically, and when someone like, okay, well, break it down. Like what is bad? Why is it the worst show ever? Why is it ruining Star Wars? And the only thing you can really say is go watch The Critical Drinker. No, no, that's not legitimate criticism. You know, especially when like a lot of the criticisms that are just sort of half-assed um, presented are just easily like, hey, this is what this is what the prequel trilogies did. This is what previous Star Wars works did. I think people call the witch cult cringe. They just say they're cringe. I think the sort of dog whistle there is that they don't like that they were lesbians. You know, which is like, you know, there's an argument for like, oh, they're putting that aspect in to be whatever. Fine, you know, but that's not really like a criticism. You know, that doesn't ruin Star Wars. You can have lesbians. You can have lesbians in Star Wars. It's fine. You know, and it makes, you know, talking about the criticism of the show extremely difficult because it's like the Rings of Power, right? Like there are things that I understand why people would be upset about that show. You know, it doesn't really follow the Silmarillion. I can't pronounce it. That book by the boy himself, and there's legal reasons for that. So it's like I understand, but when a big portion of the criticism of that show is that they don't make the elves look like elves. You know, they're upset that there are black elves, right? And you're like, well, that's just kind of racist, isn't it? And then now you're in a position where you have to be like, oh, you're just jumping to the conclusions, you're just pulling the race card, et cetera, et cetera. But it's like, but that's what it is, isn't it? You know, you're upset that you know, you just say the character designs, period. You know, and it's like, well, what's wrong with the character designs? You don't like, you know, I was upset that the dwarf woman didn't have a thick beard. You know, I thought she would be much more bearded. She has kind of like some scruff. But I mean, I get it, right? Like it's a fantasy, and you want people to, like, typically a full beard on a woman isn't considered like attractive, and you want your characters to be attractive to the audience, like, so like I definitely understand that decision, but yeah, a lot with that show too. It's I feel like there's an agenda. You know what I mean? I guess at the end of the day, I'm trying to say is that there's a big group of people, in this group consists of just nerds, right? Gamers, anime, like in all of those like nerdy spheres, they gatekeep this stuff, and it is very anti-female, anti-other races besides white, or what they perceive as white. You know, like, because you see it everywhere, and that's why it sucks when you're talking about this one thing, where it's like, well, you know, and then they're like, oh, you're woke. It's like, no, it's like, you know, you go to an anime convention and they're screaming at the black kid for dressing up as Goku because Goku's not black. What are you doing? You know, or, you know, video game. I think the latest Star Wars video game had a woman in it. How dare you? How dare you? Yeah. First of all, hold on. Complete aside, when we're talking about like female characters in video games, the female population is roughly 50% of the human population. Why are they considered a minority? Why is it like such a crazy idea? Like, in all actuality, 50% of all female or all video game characters should be female, just naturally, right? But they're not. And then every time there is a female character, it's forced. I don't understand that. But again, this is sort of what I'm getting at, is like, none of it makes sense, right? Like, you're getting upset at these properties because of what you perceive as being quote unquote woke, which is just gross. And even if they are bad in their own right, you know, the hyperbolic uh, criticisms, it's clear as day that you're not upset at these properties because for like legitimate reasons. That kind of sucks. Anyway, bye.